teen comedies. Kind of the unsung heroes of film in a general sense. I feel like we don't really give them enough credit. I mean, yeah, they're very easy to clown on, they can be really cheesy, incredibly predictable, and kind of basic visually and narratively, but you can't really go wrong with them. Whenever you're at any kind of function and just want to slap on a film, but aren't too sure how people would feel about something heavy or narratively complex, put on something like Superbad and you're guaranteed a good time. The art of teen comedies is interesting though, because they weirdly peaked during a very specific time period, that being the late 90s to early 2000s. Films like these don't really hit the same way anymore, with the newer ones feeling cheap and uninspired. That pre-2010s aesthetic just adds a charm that can't really be described or recreated, and with the amount of people who feel the same way, I don't think it's just nostalgia talking. Films like Legally Blonde, Clueless, even Wild Child are all super memorable and insanely rewatchable films. But we can't talk about this genre without mentioning Lindsay Lohan, arguably the poster child for this genre. The Parent Trap, Mean Girls, Freaky Friday. Her presence is always a fun one on screen, and with her cementing herself in this genre so successfully, the assumption that a film that she's starring in is a good one isn't exactly incorrect. However, I think it's interesting that no one ever seems to remember this one specific movie that she starred in. Before I even had the idea to make this video, I was kind of under the assumption that it had the same level of relevance and aura as those other titles, and I think that's mostly because when I first watched Mean Girls and Freaky Friday, this was a film I watched around the same time, naturally coming to the conclusion that it was just another big Lindsay Lohan film. Turns out, nobody I know has seen this film, or even heard of it, and that kind of shocks me, because it doesn't seem like it would be some small, forgettable movie. I mean, seriously, I feel like more people have seen Herbie Fully Loaded than this film, and what a forgettable mess that was. The film in question is of course Just My Luck, starring Lindsay Lohan and Chris Pine, directed by Donald Petrie, the same guy who of course also did How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. From what I've seen online, a lot of people really don't like Just My Luck, with it getting a score of 14% on Rotten Tomatoes, with people mostly criticising it for being super cliche. And yeah, they're not exactly wrong about that, but I'm just sitting here like, I don't feel so strongly. I don't necessarily think that cliches are this huge negative that people want to make them out to be, because a film can be predictable but good at the same time, achieving what it sets out to do. Granted, I hadn't seen the film in a couple of years, but I never thought it was bad, or even mid for that matter, and it's clear from a single glance of my channel that I'm quite a critical person when it comes to films. I don't know, I thought it was as good as you can get with a rom-com, and it's kind of a shame that not a lot of people enjoyed it the way I did. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the film in a bit more detail and give my reasons why I think it's a little overhated and deserves more love and recognition the older it gets, because honestly, I think it's pretty good, and yeah, I admit I feel a little nostalgic about it. The film kicks off with Ashley Albright, a girl blessed with insanely good luck. From the very beginning, everything seems to go her way, like the weather turning sunny the moment she steps outside, or her instantly guessing a mystery song on a radio contest. Then we're introduced to Jake Hardin, who's basically her unlucky opposite. He is trying to get a famous music producer, Damon Phillips, to listen to a demo from a band he manages, but things go south pretty quickly. Thanks to a clumsy mishap at a park, Jake ends up getting detained before he even gets a chance to talk to Damon. At work, Ashley casually strolls into the only functioning lift while the other one breaks down and meets a guy inside who she hits it off with immediately and gets his number. Because she's the only one who makes it to a big meeting on time, everyone else is stuck in that busted lift, she ends up pitching an idea herself, a masquerade party. The idea, fortunately for her, goes over so well that she gets promoted and is now on a first name basis with her boss Peggy. Meanwhile, Jake is released from the holding center, something that seems to happen to him regularly, and heads back to his apartment, where we see his relationship with his younger cousin Katie, who also seems to suffer from a steady stream of bad luck, their chaotic home life being a complete contrast to Ashley's. Ashley, in her usual lucky fashion, gets a dress sorted out effortlessly for her upcoming date, and invites this guy from her building to the ball, even setting him up on a blind date with her boss. We check in with Jake again, who can't even cross a street without something going wrong. We find out that the band he's managing is McFly. Yes, the real McFly, which is so random in hindsight and very much dated, but fun in a campy way. They're frustrated with being unknown, having moved to the US for big opportunities, and Jake failing once again to get their demo to Damon is making them start to lose hope. That night, McFly performs for some important people, but the setup is a disaster because of Jake, and the band is ready to head back home. But Jake begs for one more week to fix things, and they agree. Ashley's luck is still on fire. She lands a second date with the guy she met in the lift, and her friends are convinced that she's supernaturally lucky, especially when she wins cash on a scratch-off lottery ticket first try. At the masquerade party, everything seems perfect. Jake isn't allowed in at first, but sneaks in after being mistaken for one of the dancers. Meanwhile, Peggy hits it off with the guy Ashley set her up with. A fortune teller at the party insists the pair are soulmates, and she tries getting Ashley to hear about her own fortune, but she doesn't want to entertain it, though it is implied that things aren't looking too good for her. Jake, now disguised as a dancer, seizes the moment to try again to get the CD to Damon, but he gets stopped by one of Ashley's friends running the event, so he grabs Ashley to dance with him as a cover. The two end up sharing a kiss, watched closely by the same fortune teller. Jake then spots Damon and bolts, promising Ashley he'll be back. She finds it odd but doesn't question it, until everything starts falling apart. Her heel breaks, her dress rips, things that have never happened to her before. Outside, Jake tries again to get Damon's attention, though the demo still gets ignored. Jake ends up saving Damon from getting hit by a car though, and grateful, Damon asks how he can repay him. Naturally, Jake uses the moment to plug McFly. Damon agrees to help, without even listening to the CD, which makes Jake wonder if he suddenly got lucky. Back at the party, Ashley's night continues to unravel. Peggy ends up getting arrested when it's revealed that the guy that Ashley paired her with is an escort, and they all get detained. In jail, Ashley is still in denial, thinking this is all just some elaborate prank or hidden camera show, but Peggy quickly brings her back to reality and then fires her after they're bailed out. McFly performs for Damon, but he doesn't seem impressed at all. Jake, determined, insists that the band has real potential. Eventually, Damon agrees to take a chance on them and officially signs the band. Finally, a big win for Jake. Meanwhile, Ashley is released and her streak of horrible luck keeps getting worse. She returns to her apartment only to find it completely flooded, with a full-on mold infestation, and almost everything is ruined. With no other option, Ashley moves in with her friends. But things don't get much better for her. First, her hair gets stuck in a blow dryer, then she accidentally smashes a mirror with it, causing sparks to fly. In a panic, she turns on the bathtub to put out the fire, only to trigger a blackout across the entire building. I really don't know why her first thought was to turn on the water, but hey, we'll allow it. At this point, Ashley is fully realizing that she's cursed, and maybe the fortune teller from the party was right all along. Desperate, Ashley visits that fortune teller again, hoping she can somehow reverse the bad luck. But she says that it cannot be undone, and instead tells Ashley to think back to anything unusual that happened the night her luck changed. That's when Ashley remembers the kiss. It turns out the kiss transferred her luck to Jake, who was masked at the time, so she has no idea who it was. The fortune teller points out that maybe Jake needed the luck more than she did, but Ashley doesn't quite agree with that. She is determined to get her luck back. Ashley and her friends pull a list of all the guys who signed up as masked dancers at the masquerade, and Ashley sets out on a mission. Kiss them all one by one to try and reverse the transfer. What follows is a full-on kissing montage. Okay, now look. I'm not saying going around kissing random strangers is acceptable and ethical in any kind of way, but annoyingly, it kind of works as a plot device here. After each kiss, Ashley tests her luck with a scratch card, but no dice. Every single one fails, and she's down to just one guy left and isn't feeling hopeful. Back at her friend's place, Ashley decides to cancel a date with the guy she's been seeing, but her friends convince her to go anyway, reminding her that if she were truly unlucky, the date wouldn't have even been an option. Their pep talk gives her a boost of confidence. However, of course, something goes wrong. Her contact lens falls into her friend's cat's litter box, and for some reason, she still wears it. Yeah, I don't get it either. Predictably, this results in an eye infection, and she shows up to the date wearing an eye patch. At the date, Ashley immediately tanks things by insulting an art piece, which, to her horror, turns out to have been made by her date's mother. While trying to recover from that, she spots the waiter and realizes he's the final guy on her kiss list. Determined to test her luck one last time, she looks for an excuse to kiss him, but before she can, a show begins and he's a part of the act. Just as she's about to make her move, the spotlight hits her dead on. Thinking fast, she claims the guy needs CPR and plants a kiss on him right there in the middle of the performance, and somehow it works. But not really. Within seconds, Ashley trips and crashes directly into the art piece she insulted, and she's arrested once again. Ashley is bailed out the next day, looking completely wrecked, and notices a cafe serving some good-looking food. She walks in, only to remember she has no money and is swiftly kicked out. That's when she spirals. She starts ranting, still oddly conceited, about how all of this is so unlike her, while shamelessly eating bacon off a stranger's plate despite condemning the act just seconds earlier. Realizing she's gone completely off the rails, she awkwardly puts the bacon back on the man's plate and immediately knocks over a salt shaker. Jake is also at the cafe, quietly watching this disaster unfold. He clocks all the signs of her bad luck and starts putting the pieces together. Trying to recover, Ashley does the classic throw salt over the left shoulder move to undo the jinx, but flings it right into the waiter's eyes, causing chaos to break out. Luckily, Jake steps in and saves her from the mess, and the two finally get properly acquainted. Jake tells her he's been in her shoes before and offers to help, and even lines up a job opportunity to help her get back on track. But it's not exactly what he hoped for. Instead of becoming a waitress like Jake intended, she gets his old job as a janitor. With no other real options, she takes it. We then get this pretty fun montage of Ashley being hilariously bad at the job and then slowly getting the hang of it. Meanwhile, McFly is blowing up. Their popularity is rising fast and everything's falling into place. Back at work, Ashley is asked to replace a tube light, which she has zero experience with. Jake predicts disaster and sure enough, she gets zapped. He catches her mid-fall. Afterward, they share a sweet scene where Jake gives Ashley all the pro tips that she'll need and even gifts her the backpack that helped him get through tough times. Things are looking up until Jake gets a call from his cousin Katie. Ashley hears him on the phone, but not knowing who he's talking to, misreads the situation and decides to quietly leave. Later, McFly performs at a studio and Damon bursts in with big news. The band will be performing their new single at the grand opening of a venue in Times Square, an absolutely huge deal. There's just one problem though. The band doesn't have a finished single, so they've got to scramble to polish up new material fast. Ashley shows up with food for the guys and Jake asks her out for coffee. She says yes until he points out Katie when she comes into the studio. Ashley, still thinking Katie is some other woman, she gets flustered and bails, rain-checking the date in a hurry. That same night, it's pouring rain. Jake, on his way back from the studio, spots Ashley just about to leave her work, opening her umbrella inside the building. Ashley's umbrella folds in on itself thanks to the wind, basically turning it into a lightning rod. Jake steps in and offers her a ride back to his place and seals the deal with one simple promise: hot chocolate with tiny marshmallows. At the apartment, another mishap happens, this time involving the laundry. Ashley gets distracted by Jake's abs. I mean, it is a teen rom-com after all, there's no surprises there, and ends up overfilling the washing machine. Bubbles overflow everywhere, Jake comes in to fix it, and the two end up playing in the foam, getting extremely close to kissing again. Until Katie walks in. But at least the confusion is finally cleared up for Ashley. The three settle down with pizza and hot chocolate, and Jake opens up about his stress over the band. They still don't have a finished single. Fortunately though, Ashley comes through. One of her friends, Maggie, is a songwriter and has a song McFly can rework. They perform it, and Jake and the band love it. They put their own spin on it, and when Damon hears the final version, he's obsessed. Even better, the band has sold out the Times Square venue. Everything's looking perfect until Ashley overhears Damon mention that Jake saved his life at the masquerade. Suddenly, it all clicks. Jake is the masked guy that she kissed. And what does Ashley do next? She kisses him without a word and steals the luck right back. The scratch card test proves this to be the case, and Ashley is on top of the world again. She immediately runs into her old boss Peggy, who apologizes, rehires her on the spot, and casually mentions that she's marrying the guy that Ashley set her up with. But back at her friend's place, she finds out that McFly won't be performing Maggie's song. Damon has pulled the plug, saying he doesn't want the band playing something that they didn't write themselves. Ashley stays behind, reflecting on everything that's happened. Meanwhile, her friends head to the gig anyway. At the venue, disaster hits. Harry, McFly's drummer, drops one of his drumsticks into a trapdoor. When he tries to retrieve it, Jake slams the trap shut, barely missing him. The rest of the band starts freaking out, one member vomits from stress, another snaps a bass string into another's eye. It's not looking great. The audience is also getting restless, and Damon's furious. And it doesn't help that the band refuses to perform without Harry, who's now MIA. Just in time, Ashley and her friends show up. She rushes in and kisses Jake, returning the luck to him. And in that exact moment, Harry springs out of the trapdoor and lands right on stage as if it were planned all along. The crowd erupts and the show begins. Ashley makes one final request, that the band plays Maggie's song. Jake agrees, and McFly kick off the performance. The crowd loves it, and it even gets Damon's approval. At the after party, everyone's celebrating except for Ashley. She's fallen for Jake, but she knows that if she kisses him again, she'll take his luck and throw his life into chaos. So instead, she quietly slips away and heads to the train station to visit her parents for a while. Jake finds her there and tells her that waiting for a train is pointless with her bad luck. Ashley finally admits to Jake that their luck did switch, but Jake used it better than she ever did. Jake, in classic rom-com fashion, tells her that he doesn't care about luck anymore because he wants her by his side. They kiss. Again and again, switching the luck back and forth until neither of them knows who's actually lucky anymore. Then Katie interrupts. So they kiss her on both cheeks instead, transferring all the luck to her. Ashley and Jake decide to live together in a life with no luck at all. And that's how Just My Luck ends. One of the biggest criticisms I see about Just My Luck is that the characters are shallow or unrealistic. And okay, they're definitely heightened, but they're also way more likable than you can give them credit for. Ashley is introduced as this girl who has everything going for her, the classic slightly annoying rom-com lead who's never had a bad day in her life. But what I think people overlook is that the movie knows she's a bit too perfect. It's very much leaning into that, because when everything gets taken away from her, we see her clumsily figure out how to exist in a world that isn't rigged in her favour for once, and as a result, she becomes more grounded and more real. And then there's Jake, who's absolutely the heart of this movie. Okay, I get it. How are they going to convince us that Chris Pine is ugly? And you know what? It's definitely one of the most unrealistic things about this film. But appearance aside, he is the ultimate underdog in every other way. Even when everything goes wrong for him, he keeps trying, and with him having a really sweet relationship with his cousin and helping out Ashley in a non-judgmental way, having lived through her exact experience, he's just a really likable guy with super pure intentions from start to finish. And the supporting characters are pretty solid too. Ashley's friends who constantly help her figure things out make them quite easy to root for, Maggie in particular. McFly also do a good bit of acting in this, and just seeing your casual British banter in a film like this is so charming in a way I can't quite describe, but I love its inclusion in this film. The cast in this film is great and make for some really fun characters. When it comes to the actual message that this film tries to convey, Just My Luck is pretty meaningful. Ashley is someone who is of course used to life coming easy, and when it doesn't, she doesn't know how to function initially. Watching her stumble through her first real setbacks is played for laughs, but it's also relatable. I'm sure all of us have had moments where we thought everything is going wrong in our lives all of a sudden. Meanwhile, Jake's entire life has been defined by bad luck, but he's still out there chasing his dream. He's the kind of person who doesn't need a lot to be happy, but when things finally start going his way, he doesn't hoard that success. He shares it, and almost always uses his luck in selfless ways, which we never really see Ashley do. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the difference between the two in their lucky states goes to show just how differently people can go about things despite being dealt the same hand, and it makes for a very interesting watch. But having said that, I love that the film doesn't fall into a typical rich girl learns to love poor guy trope. It's more about mutual growth. Ashley doesn't fix Jake, and Jake doesn't humble Ashley. They both grow by walking in each other's shoes. And in the end, the idea that happiness doesn't come from a streak of good luck, but from what you choose to do with what you've got, is pretty solid all things considered, as basic as it is. Okay, so the whole luck can be transferred through a kiss thing is definitely ridiculous. No argument there. But within the logic the movie sets up, it actually uses the luck concept in really fun, creative ways to the point where I don't hate this. For one, the origins of this luck curse is never really explained. It just kind of exists, and you don't really know if this is solely a mental thing, or if there is in actuality some kind of force present. The film does definitely play into it being the latter, but with it not being 100% confirmed, it is fun to speculate. But regardless of if the luck is supernatural, the whole magical concept ends up being a metaphor about privilege and timing, and how you act when the world is or isn't working for you. That's way more thoughtful than the film gets credit for. The ending of Just My Luck is probably my favourite part of the film, because it feels like a real payoff not just for the romance, but for both of these characters' arcs. Ashley realizes she doesn't need everything to go perfectly to be happy, and her decision to pass her luck back to Jake after getting it again is a big one and shows some serious growth. And Jake not wanting it either, and stating that being lucky doesn't matter as much if you've got someone in your corner is really sweet, and is cliche, yes, but I like that the film embraces that with full sincerity. And then after that, when they willingly toss the luck back and forth through kisses, to the point where they don't even know who has it anymore, is such a fun metaphor for balance and partnership, with these two people deciding to move forward without needing the universe to guarantee their success. And I think that's a pretty fun concept explored in a pretty fleshed out way. So yeah, Just My Luck is not a masterpiece by any means, it's over the top and full of early 2000s energy, but it's also a sincere and thoughtful movie that I will proudly defend. Maybe it's not underrated, but it's definitely overhated, and 100% deserves a bit more love. Anyways, I'll wrap up the video there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.